All right, everyone. Hi, and welcome to tonight's virtual info session. We have a lot of really good information for you all. I'm going to give maybe like another minute or so for folks to jump on, and then we will get started. And for those that may not be as familiar with Zoom, we will be using the Q&A feature that you should be able to see at the bottom of your screen for any questions throughout, but also just know at the end of the info session, we will have time for questions to answer. Give about like another minute or so for folks to jump on, and then we will go ahead and get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. And then as people jump on, they will go ahead and, oh my goodness, we already have a Q&A. Yay! Oh, this is so exciting. We have so much good information for you all. And we have so many registrants from like all around the world for this info session, which is super exciting. But I will go ahead and get started. So my name is Tiana, and I am one of the associate directors here at Skidmore in the admissions department. I am actually based out in Seattle, Washington, while Skidmore is based in Saratoga Springs, New York. So if you are someone that lives out in the Pacific Northwest, like Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, I am going to be the person that you are going to primarily interact with when it comes to like in-person recruitment, being at fairs, and things like that. So I may or may not bump into some of you all during the upcoming fall travel season, and I'm super excited to get to know you as well. And I am joined by two lovely Skidmore students, and we are all going to be able to share some experiences, help answer any questions. And before we continue on, I'm going to go ahead and let you all introduce yourselves. Melanie, if you want to go ahead and kick it off.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Melanie. I'm a rising senior here at Skidmore. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Long Island, New York. I double major in psychology and social work. I've done research in a couple of departments here. I've done it in both of my majors, so psychology and social work research, but I've also done research outside of my major in the religious studies department. I just recently got back from studying abroad in Copenhagen, Denmark for a semester. And this semester, I'll start as our president of Skidmore's chapter of Psi Chi, which is a national honor society for psychology. So that's a little bit about me.
Hi, my name's Lila. I am from New Jersey. I'm also a rising senior. I also use she, her pronouns. I am a political science major with a minor in history in the honors form. Outside of that, in admissions, I'm involved with Knitwits. It's a club where we knit and we watch Great British Bake Off every Sunday. It's really cute. I also am involved with theater and acting on campus. I'm going to be slash in training to be a peer mentor for our incoming class of first year students, which I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, I studied abroad twice, once with our London first year experience, where I spent my first semester abroad in London with about 30 other Skidmore students and two Skidmore faculty members. And then I studied abroad again last semester in Freiburg, Germany.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And we are going to hear more from all of these experiences throughout tonight's info session. So again, if you have any questions pop up during, please go ahead and throw them into the Q&A feature. And I will try to answer a few of those throughout, but during the end of the session, if you want to hang on, we will have some time for questions. But overall, let's go ahead and get started with a little bit about Skidmore College. So we are a private liberal arts college. Undergraduate enrollment is about 2,700 students. So your average class size is going to be about 16 students in each class. And probably I'd say like 94% of our classes end up having less than 30 students in them. So we really do have that close-knit community. You are able to create those relationships with other classmates, with professors, and get that like discussion-based one-on-one learning in a more kind of just like more community-focused environment. We have a lot of majors and minors for students to choose from. However, some of our more popular ones I'd say are business, psychology, English, and economics. We also have a lot of students involved with theater and biology majors as well. And environmental studies, I'd probably say is one of the big ones too. And that is just to name a few of our top majors, but overall, students have such a large plethora of majors to choose from. And I believe about 75% of our students end up also minoring. So that's super fun. When I went to school, I was a major and I had a minor as well. I think it's a great way to kind of, focus on what you want your main path to be, but also maybe if you have a like secondary interest or passion, you can tag along to it. And then for location, Skidmore is located in Saratoga Springs, New York. So it is in upstate New York. I'd say centrally located, probably about 3 hours north of New York City, 3 hours from Boston, 3 hours from Canada. So it's a really good central location for students. About 30 minutes from Albany International Airport, and Albany is the state capital. So a lot of fun things to do around the area as well. And I would say we have a pretty accessible campus as well because of the neighboring, we have the airport, we have Amtrak stations in Saratoga Springs and Albany that will take you to all the neighboring cities. And we also have a really cute downtown area in Saratoga Springs. And with a student ID, you can take the bus to downtown and it'll be completely free with your student ID. Or if you want to go on a walk, I'm a big walker. I love to walk. If you want to go on a walk, it's like 15, 20 minutes to downtown. So really accessible campus, whether you want to branch out and explore the community and integrate it with your experience at Skidmore, or if you just want to explore around. For my students that are here with me, I do want to ask, since you all have, as rising seniors, you've been here for a while, what would you say you enjoy the most about being in Saratoga Springs?
There's a lot that goes on downtown. Of course, you have really nice coffee shops and restaurants and bookstores. We have this benefit of being in a tourist town on the off season, right? So the summer we have this big influx in our population. We have the oldest continuously running thoroughbred racing track, but that ends Labor Day weekend. So this upcoming weekend is the last weekend for races, and everyone after that goes back to wherever they're from. All over the country, people are coming, and so they go home and our population goes back down to 30,000, and that's when Skidmore students arrive for the semester. So there's really like very little if any overlap. We get all of the benefits of having that tourist town without having the tourists. So the only thing that closes in this 9 month span that we're here is the racetrack, but all of those restaurants and coffee shops stay open, so we reap the benefits of that. I think Lila and I shared this like favorite event that happens downtown every winter called Chowder Fest, where every restaurant on that main strip will sell like a little 2 ounce cup of chowder or whatever they deem to be chowder. It gets very abstract. So certain places will sell ice cream or tiramisu and call that their chowder. Other times, you're getting straight up chowder. But it's a nice way to try different restaurants at a very affordable price. But that's a really fun time to see the Skidmore community and the local community come together. So I'd say that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, Saratoga has some really great events. Chowderfest is personally one of my favorite things on happening in town. But we have a really amazing farmers market that happens every Saturday. We have every month a really fun arts fair that happens in our park, Congress Park, which is a really beautiful park in town. And then we also have just a lot of really cool things. Like I also really love our neighboring area. We're in the heart of the Adirondacks, about like 15 to 20 minutes away. And I think one of my favorite traditions that I've gotten to be a part of is the Adirondack Hot Air Balloon Festival, which is outside of Skidmore, but basically they like release like hundreds of hot air balloons and all you and all your friends like go at 5 a.m. and you just like sit and watch hot air balloons. And it's really beautiful. And there's just so many like fun things, both like in Saratoga, in our surrounding area. If you want to make a trip to Canada or New York City, I've done both and it's really fun and doable. So it's definitely like, I don't know, I feel like I'm constantly kind of exploring our area, which I feel like very fortunate.
I'd say it is just as important, like you're learning in the classroom when you are in college, but it is just as important to be learning outside of the classroom as well and familiarizing yourself with your community, with everything around you. And I think Skidmore just has a lot of really great opportunities for students to integrate within that community as well. So, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I know one of the Q&A questions asked for kind of like some experiences to share. So we'll definitely get some more of those thrown in here. And then I did want to speak a little bit on one of the hallmarks of Skidmore's first year experience, which is the Scribner Seminar. And so this is essentially a faculty taught course, and it's kind of like in an interdisciplinary setting. And each professor is able to bring in like a personal passion or curiosity to the class. And the students are able to, or the seminars help students to think kind of like through like critically gathering evidence, interpreting different ideas and making connections throughout different types of disciplines. Students are able to learn to like communicate and reflect on their own thinking as well. And it's one of the courses that is actually required to be taken. And there are, I would say, probably like 50 unique seminars that each fall that students are able to choose from. So I'm curious for our students, which Scribner seminar did you choose and why did you choose the seminar or just like your overall experience with it?
I took one called Mapping the Social World. So it was taught by a sociology professor, and we learned all about map making. So we started with mental maps and then worked our way to the components of a map and drawing maps to scale, using the Geographic Information Systems lab in the library and creating our own to scale maps of something on campus, which was really a very cool experience. It was a really weird class. We looked at sourcing through the lens of the cholera outbreak in the 1840s. Um, but it was a really great experience for me. It was nothing that I wanted to study, professionally or any further. It just sounded interesting to me at the time, so I enrolled in that one. But it sets you up really well for success, both academically and like socially, because academically, all of them have the same core structure. You're learning how to write at the college level, have a class discussion at the college level, how to take an exam, how to present. But also, there's this social aspect built in with this peer mentor, which Lila can talk about 'cause she's becoming a peer mentor and is in training all week. But that person is essentially, an upperclassman who is your built-in buddy, but also is doing the class alongside you. So they're engaged in class discussions, they're doing the readings with you, but they also have their own office hours and they teach a fourth credit hour. And I found that to be really helpful, but I'll let Lila talk about that too.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about the peer mentor and then I'll also talk about my experience as a first year. But I am going to be taking a class with our incoming class of freshmen called Mother Russia, Daughters and Sons. It's about gender and politics throughout Russian history. I'm really looking forward to it. Kind of like as the peer mentor, they are like this nice little liaison between like a normal student, which I am, and also like the administration. It is like this nice connecting, or like kind of like a person to go to that maybe isn't like a faculty member or professor. It's really great. Peer mentors get to like take their mentees out to like coffee and like Skidmore pays for it, or you like, go on a walk for Northwoods or like learn how to take the bus or stuff like that. And it's a really great resource. I'm really looking forward to getting to get involved with it, and you get to take the class with them and you have something called the fourth credit hour where every once in a while you'll like give a presentation or share resources or, do one of those activities I mentioned before where you're kind of like helping them learn the ropes of campus. And I go through orientation with our first years, which is also really fun. So you're kind of all together with your Scribner seminar, bonding, learning about Skidmore for our 2-day orientation with me. But for me, my personal experience with the Scribner seminar as a student, as a first year, is a little different from most people because I went to London. In London, you do have two options. I took a class called The American Revolution from the British Perspective. It was a class about, what did the British think about the American Revolution? And the answer is right now, not a lot. But we kind of got to look at archives, we read journals, diaries. We got to like go into a bunch of really cool historic buildings. I think I'm a big history person, and I got to be left alone in the room with one of the original copies of the Declaration of Independence. So, as in like the one we made to declare our independence, because the original one stayed in America. So this is the one King George read, which is super cool. But for me, I think like the thing that has been most lasting for me about the Scribner seminar has been the academic advisor. So that professor is your academic advisor until you declare a major. And for me, like my professor was a political science professor, and I kind of like we really clicked immediately, came back to Skidmore with him, and I was like, I want him to continue being my advisor. He's been my advisor all 3 years now, going on to my fourth year at Skidmore. So I think I'm very fortunate to have someone who's literally like I've met before I even started like the summer. He reached out to me to now at the end of my academic career to have the same academic advisor is very special.
And I think that really ties into just how like the Skidmore community is just so tight knit. And I just really value like the connections that faculty members are willing to make with our students. Whether you are abroad, whether you are on campus, it's just really important to like develop those connections and those networking opportunities. And Skidmore does a really great job with that. And I did, since we spoke a little bit about the London experience, I think it'd be a really great segue into speaking on study abroad and internships. And I know we had a question in the chat about research as well. So let's just go ahead and talk about that. But outside of the classroom, I would say about 85% of students are participating in internships. And these internships are either like for school credit or they're just internships over the summer. And students are able to utilize support from different departments and from the Career Development Center to kind of strategically map out an internship that's best going to work out for the student and their interest. And I'd say there are a lot of research opportunities as well for our students, especially in the sciences. We have a lot of facilities, especially like our Billy Tisch Center for Integrated Sciences. It offers labs and it offers just a lot of really great experiences for students to get that hands-on learning and hands-on experience. And by the time that students are graduating, you can already put on your resume that you have experience working with specific machinery or just working with specific labs and things like that. And we also have a museum on campus, which I am very much into the arts, so I love talking about it. But we have the Tang Teaching Museum, and this essentially provides a space for our students to engage hands-on with art, with curating, meeting artists, and just being able to study in like a gallery environment on campus. And so I know that we already talked a little bit about the London experience, but do we have any other like experience with studying abroad that you all would like to share or completing an internship or research?
I can talk a lot about study abroad and internships. So I'll do study abroad first. It has become like a really big part of my college experience just because I've gotten to study abroad twice and it's been really special. Skidmore has a really strong study abroad office and we really like it's really accessible. Like if you get financial aid at Skidmore, your financial aid follows you when you go abroad. So it's not really an additional cost, which is really important for me. Like I have gotten to do things I wasn't expecting to do with my college education. One thing that was really cool and something I wasn't even aware until I like heard about it randomly. We have something called the Unpaid Summer Experience Fund, and you can use it for anything that's unpaid. And I won it and I used it to go to Switzerland where I studied for about a month. The World Trade Organization, the Red Cross, the UN. I got to do some of my own research there, and it was a really like Skidmore basically asked me like, how like can you further your education away from Skidmore? And so to be supported by my college to like leave the country to go to, literally the like home capital of everything I'm super interested in political science was really special. And it was a really unique opportunity that I'm incredibly grateful for.
Um, I've also studied abroad, but just for the sake of not being redundant, I'll talk about research because I've had 4 different research experiences in the last 3 years. I started out not even considering doing research. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be on the clinical track of psychology. And I had friends who had, applied to research labs, and I was like, okay, that's good for you. I don't really want to do that. And then I took a religious studies class to fulfill a requirement. And my professor introduced their research one day in class, and we were helping them out with it because it was a transcription project. So we were just reading documents and typing them up exactly as they were written, just so they're easier to understand and sift through. And I fell in love with the project. I asked if I could take some of it home with me just to continue working on it because it felt like a puzzle to me. And they were like, yeah, you can do that. I would appreciate the help. But next semester, if you want to help me as a research assistant, I'll pay you for a couple hours a week to do that. Um, and so that started my year-long research project about Jonestown, if any of you are familiar with that. And then like a semester later, I applied for 2 psychology research labs. So I did a developmental lab as well as a positive psychology lab. So that I had to apply for, and I got matched with labs. So I have experience with psychology research. And then this summer, I was actually here for 10 weeks getting paid through our faculty student collaborative research project. And I was in the social work department with my social work advisor working on her research as her research assistant. And that project will continue through the fall and the spring. So I'll be her research assistant next semester as well, which is really exciting. So research really is abundant here. You can start as soon as the second semester of your first year here. It looks different in every department, and within every department, it's different. So sometimes they have this standard of doing a research fair, and you go to every table and you're supposed to apply to a couple of them, and they'll try to match you. Other times it's as simple as approaching a professor or a professor approaching you and asking if you'd be interested in doing research with them. So it really depends, but because we're not competing with graduate level students here, we're a solely undergraduate institution, it really is simple to get involved with research if it's something that you want.
Oh my goodness, so much information. I love it. Um, Getting some really great questions in the chat. I'm trying to answer them as I go, but a lot of them we will also talk about throughout the info session. So if at the end of the session, by any chance, we may have like accidentally maybe not touched on your full question, always feel free to reach out to us in admissions. We would be more than happy to connect you with a really great like contact for that. But we are going to try to get through all the questions. But yeah, thank you for sharing your experience with study abroad and with research. I think that's such an important part to college and just like getting to really experience education outside of the classroom. So for campus life and for residence life as well, obviously a lot of our students are going to live on campus. About 90% of our students actually end up living on campus, whether that be in a traditional style residence hall, in a suite, or like the on-campus apartments. And you also have dining options as well. And there's a pretty good variety and flexibility with these dining options. And I would say also the dining halls aren't just for like food or meals. They're also kind of like those social hubs, which I really enjoyed when I was in school. I know there were times where I'm just trying to grab a quick meal in between classes, but there were also times where, the group chat is blowing up and everyone's like, hey, what time does everybody want to meet at the dining hall? And you just kind of gather together, share a meal, talk about your day, maybe like play a game or something. It's a really great way to just make friends and build community as well. Um, and Skidmore also has an abundance of student clubs and organizations. And these clubs and organizations can range anywhere from like athletics, from the arts, maybe like service clubs, media clubs, and so much more. Um, I, as a staff member, can only speak so much about what campus life is like for a student. So I'll go ahead and let our students take away on just sharing their campus life experience, whether it be living on campus, clubs that you are involved in, or just what makes campus fun overall for you.
Yeah, I can start with that. For me, like I've lived on campus all 4 years. I lived in the dorms, our residential halls, and now I'm living in our apartments, which are really nice. I've just fully moved in now. But I think some of the things that really make our campus great is our clubs. We have so many events, and I think for me, like I've just gotten to try so many new things because of that. Like most of our events are free. If not, we have a student activity fund, so it should never be a financial barrier for you to participate in social life at Skidmore. And it's really great. Like I have gone rock climbing for free. I went whitewater rafting. Those are all through our outing club, which is our biggest club on campus. But I've also like gotten to go to a bunch of plays and like musical performances. I One of my friends is a swimmer, so I go to all of her swim meets that are on campus. But there's a lot of other really great sporting events, such as the Big Green Scream, which is our last men's and women's home basketball game, and also Hack the Rink, which is our hockey team's big game. And it's really great. Like there's truly like so many fun things going on, and like I haven't gone to every event. There's too many of them. So it's just really special, and you can like really just like play around and find out what you like.
Yeah, being on campus, there's definitely not a lack of things to do. It's usually more trying to figure out what what I have time to, split my time between all these different things that are happening, and I have to make hard decisions. But I spend a lot of my free time, in addition to like going to clubs and activities that I personally have interest in, going and supporting my friends and the things that they're doing. I had a friend who was very involved with music their first 2 years here at college. I was in the band, the orchestra, and a small brass ensemble. So I would go to all of their performances, and then we would go to other music performances throughout the semester together. I had another friend, she's very involved in dance. She's a dance and psychology double major. And so I go to all of her dance performances. My friends who do science research, I'll go to their research presentations at the end of the semester and learn from them what they're doing and what other students are doing. So there's definitely not a lack of things to be doing. I also pop over to guest lectures a lot of the time. Um, but there was one night where like there was a barbecue happening, and then two of my friends had performances within the same hour. And so I went and I grabbed a hot dog, ran over to the dance building, watched my friend perform, and then ran over to the acapella thing. It was crazy. I had a great time. So there's definitely a lot of things. But yeah, you still have time to be a person here, which is really important. In your college experience, you can double major and still have the time to hang out with friends and be in an acapella club if you want to be.
I did a cappella when I was in college and I was in choir, and honestly, that is what got me through. Like I thoroughly enjoyed classes and everything, but when I was really stressed out, it was choir and a cappella that really pushed me through. I made all of my friends through there. Um, yeah, it was just a great way to get involved, and I actually was just reminiscing with some of my college friends where we were talking about how much we miss it, just being able to like go down the hall and our friends are right there, or participating in all these on-campus events. It's just a really great experience. And I encourage everyone to just really take advantage of the college experience while you're there because it goes by so fast. I'm sure you all can attest to that as rising seniors, just how quickly the time passes. Um, And then I did want to see if you all had any insight on, do you feel like there is a lot of variety with like the residence hall options on campus? Whether it be just like maybe like specific floors for specific interests or just like communities on campus, safe spaces and things like that.
Yeah, so this is also part of my peer mentor job, is connecting people with those resources. So I do know about them. We do have some themed living. It really but depends on like what's students' interest, but we almost always have a women's only floor. We also have a sobriety floor, which is just for people who are committed to living a certain type of lifestyle. We have a really fun sustainability floor where they all run the campus garden together, which is really fun. And then we have a bunch of identity-based, faith-based, and social groups like that. We have a really big international students union. It's a really fun, like they always like have really fun food-related events, which is how they get me when they have their like big things. We have a lot of like student groups based on like specific like religious identities. There's almost always like um, events that will like cater to students who are either like I know during Ramadan we'll have things to help with people who are fasting, you know, if they have specific dietary restrictions because of that, as well as like for Jewish student life, there's a ton of options there as well. But there's a lot of like places. I think there's just like some really fun events that you can find, and you can definitely like if you want to have like a social group or a specific gender identity group that you can find on campus. There's a lot of people that can put you in touch. Our diversity and student inclusion office is really great and they're super friendly. They have open office hours all the time, so you can literally just show up. And it's really great. Like, I think Skidmore does have a lot of opportunities to connect people, especially if you're coming from a background that isn't like super well represented. There's ways that you can find your people here.
Yeah, we also, I just, because I see there's a question about housing for queer students or trans students. We have special interest housing, which Lila mentioned. And so when you're applying to Skidmore and you're applying for housing, in your application, you will say that you want to live in one of these communities. And so for students who identify as queer or trans or non-binary or would feel more comfortable in a living environment with other students who identify similarly. They have the PRISM floor, which is peers representing intersecting identities and sexualities meaningfully. All of that to say, it's an LGBTQ plus floor for students who identify that way and want to live with other students. Who also identify as queer. And so that might be a more comfortable living experience for students. I've had friends who lived on that floor and have had a really great experience with that. So there's spaces for everybody to live comfortably.
That is great. Do you all have any like knowledge on for international housing for like apartments? That's year round, is that right?
Yeah, so a lot of students, I was here for the summer, so was Lila. A lot of the international students stay for the summer as well with everything that's going on. And so you're sponsored. They're not going to kick you off campus when you have a reason like that to stay. So you are allowed to stay here. Usually students will find a job on campus and then get sponsored through that, so they don't have to pay for housing over the summer, or they can subsidize their housing. And for breaks from school, like Thanksgiving, winter break, spring break, you're not moved off of campus. Sometimes they're not serving food in the dining hall during winter break the entire time. And so for friends that I've had who have had that experience, the school will give them money to order food or go to the grocery store, just because you need to be able to eat. But you're never removed from campus if you have a reason to be here, right? So they don't want anyone being homeless. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks on like the values that Skidmore is based on and just like built on, especially with just being so involved in kind of putting the student experience first and just really making sure that all students feel like they have a home away from home. There are students attending Skidmore that grew up 5 minutes down the street. There are students that have to hop on a 16-hour flight to get home. And I think we really acknowledge, you know, just everything in between and really making sure that students feel like they have a community and they have just a place of support throughout their time at Skidmore. Um, and then I also wanted to touch on some more information as well. as we get more questions in the chat. Just with the admissions process in general, when you are applying to Skidmore, like I mentioned earlier, we really do want students to understand they are applying to an institution that really values the creative thought matters mantra. And we want students to take advantage of, you have your traditional majors like business and psychology, biology, just kind of naming a few. But we also want our students to broaden their horizons with that liberal arts college experience, having an interdisciplinary education that essentially will tie in humanities, social sciences, and the arts and give our students really a well-rounded curriculum. So you maybe, you're going to school for a specific career path or specific track. And that doesn't mean that you're not able to kind of veer off that track a little bit and explore other options and kind of like dip your toes into the water of maybe something you've always been interested in, but you don't know if you want to pursue that, for the rest of your life. And I always say a lot of times you don't know what you actually want to study until you are doing it. So for example, for me, I went into school with one major, and I had told myself probably since my freshman year of high school that I wanted to be a specific, like career path after college. And after my first year taking courses, I realized I was like, actually, I don't think this is the career path that I want to study. And I think it's so important to make those, discoveries and things like that. And a lot of times you don't get that discovery until you're actually in person, taking those courses, being involved in those curriculums. And we want students to feel like they have those opportunities to kind of just explore different horizons and just like discover something new about themselves. So I think that's just really important and really helps Skidmore develop well-rounded students. We do not have an application fee. We don't have extra essays, and test scores are optional. Those are like three probably main questions we usually get during application season. So again, no application fee, no extra essays, and we are test optional. Our team reads all of our applications holistically and with care. So it's not like an automated system where we just comb through a transcript and, if you have a certain GPA, you're automatically admitted or automatically denied. We really take time to comb through every single application. We will read as a team to determine admission for students, and we meet 100% of demonstrated financial need for all of our admitted students too. We have also a variety of different ways to stay connected with Skidmore, whether you are local, whether you are tuning in from afar. And those can be through virtual events like our info session tonight. We also have student Ask Me Anything chats, where essentially it is led by students at Skidmore. There's no adult professional, so I'm not in the room, and you can literally just ask anything, just full transparency from the student experience. Because I always say I can speak about Skidmore as much as I can, but it's really from the student perspective that is the most important part of getting that experience. So I also want to say we do have a fall open house event coming up in October. We just had our July open house and it went really well. And it's a great way for students to be on campus and get to experience all these lovely things that we've talked about tonight, whether it be, eating in the dining hall or sitting in on a class or just really getting to experience what it's like to be on campus. And you're able to sign up for these events through our website. And just like you were able to sign up for the one tonight. And then I did see a few fun questions in the chat too that I did not want to stray away from. I believe someone had asked, where is it? If you could only go to one Skidmore tradition all year, which one would it be?
I love Big Show. It's so fun. We had Natasha Bedingfield last year. We've had Saint Motel. She's great. The rest is still unwritten. It's such a good song. It was an emotional experience for me, but it was so fun because like you're just like in the basketball gym, and you have like this like decent, like pretty major performing artist like doing all of her hits. She had like this like crazy disco setup with our president and our mascot's face on it, and it was amazing. Like it was my favorite concert I've ever been to. So that would be mine. It was like it was just so surreal. It was so fun.
Mine is also music related. I love Skidmania. It used to be called Beatlemore. We used to only play Beatles songs. That got to like really tired and old really quickly. There's only so many Beatles songs, so we switched to doing music from 50 years ago. So people will perform like the top hits from 50 years ago in the US. And so we have this year music from 1975. I'm very excited. It's a good year for ABBA. It's also the year that Bohemian Rhapsody came out. So I'm very excited for that. I go every year. Very fun, really great. The whole auditorium sells out. People from the community come. It's a really fun time to enjoy music and have a sense of community on campus because anybody can perform. It's audition based, but it's not just music majors. There's bio majors, there's economics majors. So people who just like music and want to sing get on stage for 5 minutes and do their thing, and then the next group comes out. So it's a wonderful experience. It's my favorite thing ever.
I love it. Oh my goodness. I'm a big music person. I think I already said that, but yeah, Skidmania. Oh my gosh. And then when it comes to, I know someone had asked a question about mentoring. And so what are the opportunities? I know Lila, you had spoken about the mentor program. I don't know if you wanted to touch on maybe like anything else when it comes to those opportunities. How did you get involved with it? And things like that.
Sorry. There's tons of ways to get involved. Specifically for the peer mentor program. Usually how it works is a professor will ask you to be their peer mentor and you kind of work alongside them. It's a really great experience. That is specifically you're working in the first semester. You're working in the first year with first year students for that whole year. So I'll be taking the class with them this semester, and then next semester in the spring, I won't be with them in a class, but I will still provide office hours, have drop-in times, like my phone's available to them. It's a really great experience, but there's tons of other ways to get involved. We also have something called PHEs, peer health educators. It's not specifically maybe a mentor program, but you get to take a class on a specific health related issue, and you are kind of like considered a little student authority on it. So you can work with people on specific health related issues. And it's also a really fun program. You can get a lot of free things from the PHEs, which are fun. And that's great. But there's tons of ways to get involved with working with other students. Their Student Government Association is another great program for that, where, it's an elected position where you kind of get to work with other people. You get to work like very hands-on with the administration. They are kind of like the student advocates for us. I think some of the best things they've done is they got us more games tables, and they also made laundry free. Two big things for me. But there's tons of ways to get involved, be a mentor, contribute to your campus community.
And do you feel like you see like a lot of international students also getting involved with like mentoring
Yeah,
opportunities?
actually, so right now, a couple of days ago was International Student Move-In, and they have international students who are upperclassmen act as their orientation leaders. So you are being connected with people who've had a similar experience with you, just to like guide you through. There's tons of them. There's also like a lot of opportunities. Like if you're someone asked in the chat about like international students are totally welcome to participate in SGA. Our current president is an international student. There's also like a ton of like if you want to specifically work with international students, we have like a lot of specific offices for that, as well as our International Student Union. There's a lot of specific like location-based groups that you can also join, like ACA, which is Asian Cultural Association. We also have a Black Student Union, but we also do have one that's specifically focusing on students from Africa. We have a really fun fashion show at, I think, in the spring semester, no, in the fall, which kind of celebrates East African culture, and it's also really fun. You see a lot of really awesome. It's a great party. So those are great opportunities for international students to get involved with, to kind of find a community or to like get into mentorship or like leadership roles on campus.
And I will say as well for our international students that are on the info session, we do have someone that works with international students. He knows all the ins and outs of the admissions process. Great resource for questions. He's actually out. Oh gosh, I don't know where he is right now. Actually, he's on a world tour right now. And I think every day he updates in our chat and he's just sending pictures from everywhere. But he is our international recruiter. His name is Darren, and you can find his information online. But I did answer a question in the chat with his email. He's a really great resource for international students for any questions when it comes to applying and things like that. And he also has a lot of really good resources for and connections for students as well. So I would recommend reaching out to Darren with questions too. And his email is also online on our website if you comb through our staff. And then there are a few other questions in the chat as well. So for, I would say our students that are on right now, how do you feel when it comes to like having a major and a minor, or like, is it doable? Maybe like when you're torn between two things, like how do you navigate that? I don't know if I can't remember if either of you mentioned having a minor.
Yeah, no, I'm a major. Melanie, I feel like I've talked a lot.
The question was like, how do you navigate having like majors in mind, like multiple? Yeah, it's really easy. It sounds like kind of it would be overwhelming. It depends what you're going to do, but over 75% of Skidmore students have at least one major and one minor, but you can go as far as having a double major and a triple minor. So there's one person at admissions who has one major. He majors in economics and then he has a minor in international affairs. Management and business, and Italian. Um, I'm a double major in psychology and social work. I have friends who double major in psychology and dance, psychology and philosophy, computer science and music, psychology and theater with a minor in management and business. So, like there's people doing a lot and they're not closely related. It's also important to mention that things that I do for my psychology major are not overlapping with my social work major. They're not cross counting for me. And I've still been able to double major, take classes in other departments that I find interesting, right? I mentioned I love music. I'm horribly not talented at it, so I needed someone to teach me how to read music and play piano. So I took a class one semester at the very beginner level for piano. I've taken religious studies classes outside of my major. I've still been able to complete my majors. I'm finishing them up this semester. And I've still had time to, run clubs. I've had leadership positions in clubs for a while now. I have multiple jobs on campus, and I still have time to sleep, eat, and be a person, and have a social life, and hang out with my friends on the weekends. So it's highly encouraged here. It's part of Skidmore's like academic culture is to dip your toes into multiple departments and explore every interest that you have. We don't want to cut people off. Maybe you have this really big interest in ceramics, but you want to major in environmental studies. That's okay. They want to make sure that you can still do ceramics. So you're able to minor in studio art if you want to do ceramics. Um, yeah, I've rambled a lot, but that's to give you a good picture. You really can do what you want to do here and still graduate on time.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, the majority of the students at Skidmore are double majoring. And I know sometimes it can get tricky too if you have a specific route or a path that you're wanting to take and you are asking, like what would be the best minor to kind of put along with this. Your academic advisor can help, walk through that process, talk you through it, any questions that you may have as well. So that would be a really good resource for students to utilize, is just really, asking all the questions and just being able to say, if I want to, go into business, what would be the best minor to tag along if this is my end goal? And our academic advisors are going to be really great at just being able to work with you. And, depending on what your end goal is, they're going to help you get there. Um, And let's see any other questions. Ooh, we have one. It says for the students, if there's one thing you could change about Skidmore, what would it be?
There's a lot to love about Skidmore, but of course, I don't think that any school is perfect. I think there's always room for improvement. Something that I've noticed, even though I'm an able-bodied person, is that physical accessibility on campus is lacking. This campus was built before ADA was a thing. But there's, just because, we're grandfathered in doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a physically accessible campus. So very slowly things have been changing in the right direction, right? This summer they made major construction. They built a ramp where there used to be a staircase. So now you can access campus a lot easier from certain residence halls and the dining hall. But certain buildings are still, not physically accessible. Certain residence halls don't have elevators, things like that. And so getting around campus could be a little bit easier for some of our physically disabled students. So I'm a big advocate for that.
Yeah, no, I definitely like I think Skidmore will like have like the problems that like most other small liberal arts colleges have. I don't think any of our issues are very unique. I think like, we're a small college in upstate New York, so you definitely kind of find yourself in a bit of a bubble. But I think like there are ways that you can kind of counteract that. And I think like, we are unfortunately like um there's ways you have to kind of like use resources and also reach out to people. It's something that like I've been trying to do of like knowing that like this isn't super representative of what the United States looks like. I think the college is aware of that, which I think is good, and is making like active steps to make our school accessible to everyone in our community. We have a really great program called the Opportunity Program, which is all about making sure that people who are come from a social or economically disadvantaged position in New York can find a place in Skidmore. It provides a lot of supports for incoming students, specifically from that background. I think like there's ways that we're being better, but obviously there's tons of ways that we can improve. And I'm glad that like it's a notice thing, but I'm always still advocating that like more can always be done.
Absolutely. Thank you. Those were really great questions and also really great answers. I agree as well. I think there will always be room for improvement in any school you go to. And I think the important part is making sure that you voice what like you want to advocate for. And Skidmore, I would say, is pretty good about, listening and really implementing those changes. And that's where it starts. Um, when it comes to, hold on one second. Okay, got that one. Um, when it comes to diversity on campus, do you all feel like it's a pretty diverse campus? I feel like it is a pretty diverse campus. And I know like even through like the housing options and things like that, different backgrounds, I think it's a really great campus for students to kind of share their opinions respectfully and how do you all feel being on campus and experiencing it yourself?
I think it depends on who you ask, right? So, for me, as someone who is a white student, I I don't, for me, I think personally, I think it could be more diverse, but everyone you ask will have a different opinion. To give you the statistic, about 26% of our students are domestic students of color. So with that information, you can assess for yourself what that means for you. Some students will say this is way more diverse than my high school or my town that I grew up in. And so for them, this is a diverse campus. Other people, this is the complete opposite. They're coming from a large city like New York City, and this does not meet their standard of diversity. So it really depends what you're looking for. That's not to say that you're not going to find people that you mesh with well or that you're not going to be accepted because of your identity. It just means, you know, that we might not have as many people of color as you're used to, or we have more people of color than you're used to. As I think one of the questions was also talking about like political diversity. With that, I think less so. This is a small liberal arts college, which doesn't have anything to do with politics. However, that line of thought and that form of education often aligns with left-leaning politics. And I find that to be the case here at Skidmore. A lot of students are definitely leaning Democratic, left leaning beyond that. That's not to say, of course, if you don't identify that way politically, that you wouldn't be accepted here. But the campus is really founded on respect for other people. So if your views are disrespectful to human rights, that might lead to other things. But it's a pretty accepting campus regardless of where you stand with things.
Yeah, no, I can definitely like add on to that. Like as a political science student, I think like academics is very diverse, if that makes sense. Like I've gotten to learn from like specifically like I learn about politics all the time. I've gotten to learn from people that come from a lot of different political backgrounds than me. And I think like one of the core things about Skidmore is there is this like sense of respect. Like people are very like respecting, open. I think like my classes involve a lot of talking about like what's happening in the world, and like, you know, what are our thoughts on it. And I think like I've been lucky to say that like those conversations have always been very academic, have been very analytical, and it's never like anything intense. You're really encouraged to work through these things with people, and it's something I've really enjoyed. I think like there is like a very um, like academics here are very diverse, if that makes sense, and like I think that really helps. Obviously, like we're not always perfect, but I think like I've gotten to learn from a lot of people because like people come from different backgrounds here. So I think that really helps.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think that's one of the great parts about college is just learning about other people, learning about where others come from, and just kind of like, especially if you're coming from, maybe you've grown up in a small town your whole life, or you've grown up in the same place your whole life, coming to college really opens up those horizons. And I think it's just a great way to kind of be exposed into the real world where you are going to be interacting with so many people from different backgrounds with different opinions. And it really prepares you for the post college life as well. And it really allows you to form kind of like the communication and just everything that you need when it comes to coming out of college and just like jumping into the real world when it feels like, popped the bubble, and you're out and about in the world. So yeah, I think it's a really great place for students to kind of experience that and learn ways to just like navigate those hard conversations, hard topics, and things like that. Um, let's see. Any other questions? We have about 3 minutes left. So if you don't have any questions, you are more than welcome to hop off. If you have questions that pop up after the session, you're always more than welcome to reach out to us. Um, I would say for any like specific questions about like courses and tracks, please feel free to reach out to an admissions advisor so that we are able to assist you with more information. Check out our website as well. We have a course catalog with all of the courses that we have to offer. Students are able to kind of comb through those courses as well. Um, I would say, let's see, completing a senior thesis. Are you all getting ready to complete senior thesis? Yeah, because you are rising seniors.
It's complicated in the way that it works. So not everybody has to do a senior thesis. It depends on your major. And then even sometimes within your major, what your post-grad goals are. So at the very baseline, you're required to do something called the senior coda, which usually is just taking a class in your major called the senior coda in blank department, which is some sort of culminating project in a 1 or 2 credit class. So it meets once a week usually, to kind of just wrap up what you've learned. Um, some departments will do a senior capstone project, and that, like for the environmental science program, for example, we'll do 2 semesters of a senior capstone, and it's a big project. It's research based. One of them a while back is the reason why 12% of our campus's energy source is through solar panels. We have a solar panel farm a couple miles off of campus, and it's because of that project. We also have a hoop house on campus because of an ESS project 3 years ago. So things like that. Some students do a senior thesis if they believe that it would be helpful for them to go into grad school, or because it's something that they think would be helpful to them to show off what they've learned or have been researching. You have a lot of support, right? You have an advisor for your senior thesis if you choose to do one. So you're meeting with them usually weekly to go over what you've been doing and what you need help with, but you're not alone in that process. They don't let you do one alone because it's a big task to chew off. So yeah, you have a lot of support in doing that. So yeah.
Awesome. And again, there is more information on our website as well. And as you navigate our website, as you navigate the admissions process, I cannot emphasize enough that we are here to help you all through the process, whether it be through virtual info sessions, just emailing one-on-one with counselors, or visiting campus. We want to make sure that we stay connected, especially because I know the application process during your senior year can be a lot. And so we want to make it as easy for you as possible. So always feel free to reach out to us so that we can help you with the process and just help it be as smooth as possible. Thank you so much to our students for answering those questions so well and providing your experiences. And yes, again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Hope everyone has a great evening or a great day, depending on where you're coming from. And we will see you all next time. Bye.